If you didn't know, I'm Anastasia's mom.
Good job.
Thank you. She's our middle daughter, so if that gives any insight into things. But about a year ago, last June, she brought her iPad in and mentioned, "Hey, you might like this site," and it was Zooniverse, and it was doing supernova hunters. She'd been doing it for a few weeks, and she knew I would love it because, I've done, very amateur astronomy since I was, young, and I loved it, and I've kept doing it. I've had months where I haven't been able to do it as much, because life, but I've expanded and done all kinds of things, all kinds of the classifications, and just fell in love with citizen science. That said, I'm still a baby citizen scientist because I didn't realize that the world is doing citizen science. So there's a lot going on out there. And so tonight I'm just going to give you some insight into Zooniverse, which is a great way to get started, great insertion point. Great for when you're just standing in line somewhere and you want to on your phone and do a few classifications. And then some other sites with more in-depth things if you want to, go out and do water sampling or do things like that. But we're going to stick mainly to astronomy, but I'll give you links to other things. So what is citizen science? And I'll tell you, there's no one definition, but what I would love to hear, some of the answers, how people define it. Are you able to see the chat? I don't think I can't pull it up with this.
So
screen.
Some of the questions were: citizen science is participating in a subject and sometime contributing to the research. That was an answer that was given.
Okay.
Anastasia put that up before.
Yes. Yes.
When plain folks like me can participate, that's what is citizen science? Is people like me collecting data related to some science questions that professionals will analyze later. Okay. I was trying to look for answers. I'm not just skipping you, Ann. Some of it could be as simple as taking a poll on a subject.
Absolutely.
Read an article in Astrophysics Journal where they were encouraging their members to reach out to astronomy clubs, that it has been a wonderful partnership going back for years. And suggesting Alcor programs could be considered if the data that you observed is available to others.
Right. Right. And like I said, there's no definition. They're trying to, they being all the people, they're leading it, are trying to come to a definition. Anybody in here, anything to add to that? What you think it kind of is?
And we had one more that said, helped identify locations. What's going on? It is really screwed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still sharing. Yeah. It's just
There we
not
go.
up there, I think.
We're okay. The Zoom is okay. You keep going.
Okay.
Right back.
Okay. No problem. So this is one definition, collection and analysis of data relating to natural world by members of the general public. Typically it's part of a collaborative project with professional scientists. And that, that makes sense. But you'll see when we look through some of these projects, that's very, it's a very broad situation. So, and I think they're even discussing whether that's the best name for it. But for tonight, we're going to say citizen science. Okay. So two of the largest places where you can go to learn about citizen science and actually find projects. And we're gonna briefly look at these tonight after the PowerPoint. I've got a few things kind of mixed in. So the PowerPoint is just kind of the intro. Zooniverse, which is probably the largest that I could find, which was started in 2009 by an astrophysicist at Oxford. They've had like over 1 million participants, a lot of classifications in that time. And it was early on, it was predominantly astronomy related. And that's why it's probably a good place to go for astronomy related tasks, but they have all sciences there. And SciStarter is another one, a little newer, 2014, but they've already got over 100,000 people registered to do stuff there. Both of them, as far as things that are different and the same, both of them have very wide variety of projects. You'll find some projects on both, which at first I was like, why is this project on both? But then it's because they need to reach as many people. So they're they're trying to spread the reach as far as possible. Zooniverse is kind of all in one. They've got an app. You can do it on your iPad, you can do it on your computer, take it with you. It's all right there. You can do the classifications and everything else that you need to do is right there. SciStarter is a little different. They don't host the projects on the site. You have to go to the project site and then you can come back and report that you participated. And one reason for that is a lot of the projects on SciStarter are hands-on. So they're not necessarily what you can do from your couch. Pros and cons, right? So you may be out collecting, tap water. They did a big project on tap water. There's just a lot. So they have some of both. They also have some games that use citizen science. And when I talk about the links that I have for you, I'll list a few of the games that actually you could use to participate. That's the main difference. They both have really strong education components. So if you need, for kids or whatever, your kids or whatever, they have great, pathways for teachers. But really there's stuff on there for the most difficult, astrophysicists kind of, like super scatter plot, and you're kind of looking for like one dot in a, those big thing, to very simple, classifications like what shape is this cloud. So there really are projects for everyone, and that's great. So we'll look actually what these look like after this. And just,
I'm sure she's sound asleep.
is everyone familiar with both of these? Who is not familiar with one of these? Okay, so a few people aren't familiar yet. I'm sorry that I'm going to take away all your time for the next year, because if you're like me, you'll fall into it and you'll have to limit yourself. So the difference in citizen science and I don't know, back when I was, gosh, I guess it's back when we were state or just after, I would do like Mechanical Turk, to make 0.01 cents to do something, and now, and this is a debate I've had with we have a daughter at older daughter at Carnegie Mellon right now, and she still uses some of those sites, and they're valid for some things, but typically you don't get paid for doing citizen science. That's kind of the line. So and I think when I talked to you, you were mentioning reasons why, and when I've talked to experts, it is why. If you pay someone to do it, then they're doing it to get paid, not for science, not for betterment of the world, not for the, it becomes a little, right. And so that's an issue. And as far as I know, none of the projects on these sites or the other main ones, we'll talk about, there's a NASA site, there's a US government site, there's a European Union site that all have tons of projects. As far as I know, none of them pay you unless they're asking you like to come in and like be a sample or something. I don't think there's any of those either, but I thought it was really interesting because ethics are important, and this is a field that's growing very rapidly. And so we want to make sure that it grows safely and broadly and is, accessible and doing the right thing, not, is this kind of list of rules. And I was looking for, things, and the European Science Association has like 10 principles. I'm not going to read the details of it, but basically projects, actively involve citizens in scientific endeavor that generates new knowledge or understanding. Projects have a genuine scientific outcome. We're not going on there to determine the next color of My Little Pony's friend's hair. No, they have to be actual, looking for real, something important. That may be important, but it's got to be framed in the science thing. science reference. Both professional scientists and citizen scientists benefit. So it needs to be, it's a benefit thing. And as I've done this over the last year, before I realized it was so big, I'm thinking, who is this good for? Well, it's good for me who has a brain that won't shut up before going to sleep. I can do something, do this and just relax. It's good for people who can't get out of the house. It's good for it's good for people who maybe have retired and feel like they need to do something, but they're not able to get out. Or if they're able to get out, there's plenty to do there. They may have more time, on their hands to do stuff. It's good for kids. And to me, that's one of the most wonderful things is if kids, especially, well, even late elementary and middle school, starting there, expose them to all these sciences, not just astronomy, but all the sciences that are out there. They may find something they didn't know they were going to love. And it may lead them to, college being not changing majors 10 times, but it may help them with a direction. It also gives them a purpose. They're doing something important. They are treated just like, they're science, they're scientists, they're citizen scientists, they're just like grown-ups. So I think it has a lot of positive. I have not found any negatives, and I'll be interested in a little question thing if any of you have seen any negatives. Does it have room to grow? Absolutely. Do we still need to work on some things? Yes. But so far in an exploding field, I think they're doing a pretty good job. So citizen scientists may participate in multiple stages of the process. They get feedback from the project. That's really important. That is anyone familiar with Mechanical Turk? So I'm using that as an example. You may not know, but it's like a place where it was like, well, they still do it. Isn't it owned by Amazon now? I think, and they pay you like to answer questions or do something, and not very nominal. So it's a place where college kids can go to try to make a little money to live. But you never get feedback. You never know if what you did added value or whatever. You don't even get that feeling. So I think that's one of the tenets of citizen science that it's supposed to be turned off, that it does add that value by making you truly a partner, at least in the discussion. It's considered a research approach like any other, and does have limitations and biases. There's a paper that came out recently. Dr. Karen Cooper at NC State. Anyone know her? I think she works here too. She's really big. We're fortunate. She's really big in citizen science, and she was awesome. I talked to her for a couple of hours. But those papers she had come out, and it's like they had discovered that 95% of citizen scientists are white. And they're like, why? What do we need to do to fix this? Everyone should be able to do this. We need everyone's help. So that's good in the sense that now they can work on, diversifying and making sure there's access. And of course, a lot of it started with bird watching, and that was a hobby for people that like to bird watch. I'm trying to be careful here. Had time to do it, right? And if you're, if you have to work all the time, no matter what color you are, if you're poor, basically, you don't have time to be doing this extra stuff. So it's making a way to make it fit in with part of being a global citizen. And I think that's really, really important. So data and metadata are made publicly available, and research results are published in open access. And that's important too, because you want to see what the data looks like, right? And most of these projects, you can request raw data of all the people that have done all those things, and you can look. You may not be able to read it, but you can get it, and you can ask questions for what you need. I think that gives a legitimacy to it that maybe some earlier things did not. And then citizen scientists are often acknowledged in project results and publications. We'll talk a little bit about that too. But they are working on, things, copyright, intellectual property, data sharing, confidentiality, all the same things that we have to work on everywhere in the digital age. It's not perfect yet, but let's see. So we're just gonna look at a few Zooniverse astronomy just briefly here before we go in and look. Has anyone done any of these projects? Those who know, which one have you done? Are all of them or? Yeah, I think that one's out of data right now. And isn't that one by someone here, right? Someone here. Yeah. I don't know if there's going to be more data. That's one thing on Zooniverse. You'll have they have X amount of data. When you run through it, there may be a lull or they may be done. Before more comes up. But the identifying solar jets, supermassive black holes, and finding changes on the comet 67P. That one's really hard. They give you 2 pictures that look like a bunch of gray rocks and craters, and you have to say, is there any change? Mark it, and so there's all types of types of data to look at. The solar jets is really pretty. It's sun and it's showing a jet or not, and they give you a bit of film or a bit of video, and you mark when it starts and you mark when it ends, and you mark the height, box it in, and they're working to build a database of jets to help with science research going forward. This is one that I personally find difficult. Analyzing light curves, searching for variable stars. I can understand the trending data, to match it up, and we'll see on Zooniverse how they give you examples and stuff. But there are some pretty high level ones there that you have to train for. And I think the one thing that was very difficult for me to get over is, what if I make a mistake, right? What if I'm categorizing something and I miss seeing a supernova or something? I pet the cat and miss it and just click it. But most projects will tell you, we're running this data set through 3 people, 5 people, and we're looking for a consensus. We don't get it, we'll look at it again. We'll run it through again, or the leads, they'll put it onto the people in the project there. So you don't have to worry so much about a little mistake. Another way that some help you check, I don't know if anyone's familiar with, I think it was cosmic jellyfish, which was looking for defining galaxies that look like jellyfish, basically, from pictures. And they were pictures, but they're flat, and then so the computer couldn't really analyze them well. So you're having to think of them in 3-dimensional space and figure out if there's tendrils coming the right way and different things like that, which was cool. It was very pretty, just very interesting project. But ever so often it would pop up and be like, no, you're wrong, that's not one, and this is why. So it taught you along the way. Or yes, great job, this is one and this is why. So that I like that, actually, that way of giving you a little feedback along the way. They put classification or put data in there that's purely meant to check you, to help you know if you're on track or not, because they want the best data, of course. First time it popped up, I was like, I'm wrong. Oh no. But it's, it's a good way to do it, but not all of them do that. And here are some others. So the transcription projects on Zooniverse they take a long time. So, some of my 10,000 are transcription. Those can take longer than it would take to do 300 of something else, maybe. This particular one, Star Notes, which is Project Phaedra, I think, is really cool. They started out with the actual, scans of the notebooks from the computers that were writing down what was seen every night in observations. And you're copying, you're doing whatever they tell you to do, which may be different points, because they kind of do it date, and then they do it by different ways. And then also drawings, and then they're matching them with the glass slides, which still exist, so that data is not lost, which is awesome. It's a really good thing. But the transcriptions are much more difficult, in my opinion. This cloud spotting is a fairly new one, I believe. I believe that's the one. I can't remember if that or the Jovian one is the newer one. But you're looking at actual data from the reconnaissance orbiter, which isn't that old, and you're helping identify clouds. And they walk you through kind of the physics of, well, you've got a satellite, going around, and we're trying to go through the atmosphere. And so the cloud's not going to look like, a puffy cloud we have here on Earth. So this is what it's going to look like on this marker. It's not a visual representation anyway, but it's going to look like, like sort of like a wishbone, and it's got a point. And mark this because we think we're missing a lot of them, with just the computerized checks. And that one's been pretty fun. There's another, the meteor zoo. Has anyone done that one? It's really usually current data. I mean, some projects, astronomical data, well, that the star notes is from 100 to 120 years ago. The meteor zoo will be the last meteor shower, basically. And it's, radio signals, and you're looking for, they're working on doing frequency and size and stuff, and they can gather that, but you box in each of the ones you see, and they tell you what to look for, like what's a plane going through, or what's, noise, that kind of thing. But it's neat being able to be, I mean, I remember watching, all the great satellites leaving, Viking, all these different things, but never thinking that you could be here looking at data from the reconnaissance orbiter. It's really pretty amazing that we've have access to something so quickly. And there was another Mars project recently, and I think it's out of data, where you were looking at visual pictures of the ground, and where there were dark spots, like would look like somebody had dropped something and it's splattered black sand or dirt, whatever. And they were trying to figure out seasonal weather patterns by which way the winds were going, how heavy the winds were, and different things. Just really, really neat stuff. I think that was out of data right now as well. So Supernova Hunters was the one that Anna told me about, and they're currently out of data. It's a really fun project. Has anyone done that one? Besides Anna? I know Anna did. It's really fun. And this shows you, you'll have the different slides, and then how you select that. But a lot of these have little bonuses. For example, my youngest daughter, Andromeda, she's in a virtual school, and I have her do Zooniverse every week to get exposed to different things and stuff like that, to different things. But you just don't, I don't know. It's just different, so many different projects to look at. And I want to come back, I'll come back to that in a minute. But so with Anna, this one, for example, my daughter Andromeda got to use it for National Honor Society hours, because they count. A lot of these projects will give you a certificate for helping. They will give you hours for community service. They will give you, I know it's just papers and stuff, but like if you're a high school student who's going to go to college and you need to have hours, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, you've got to be helping, you've got to be helping. It's perfect. Something like this, and her school implemented Zooniverse as an acceptable thing. Is there a problem?
We have a question from the chat.
Yeah.
Tony asks, what is the typical time commitment for projects? Is there a minimum number of hours per week or per month?
It's totally up to you. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you don't even have to register on some of the sites. You can do one classification, you can do 10 hours in one day, and there's no long-term commitment. They take what they can get. And honestly, the more different people they have, I think is good, So no, you're not signing up for a commitment. It's at completely your own pace. And I've done some, like there was one that was calculating how sound waves travel in a steel drum. They were showing the drum and they had the different circles, and you were having to listen and look at the sound waves. I didn't like it. It was not for me. It was, hard. But then there was another one that was like, listen for this rare frog in Australia. I love that one, and I love the whale song and the dolphins talking and all these things. But you can do one classification and decide you don't like that particular project and move on. I mean, they don't want people that don't like it. You're not forced to. Totally, whatever you can do. It is addictive. I mean, I have to limit myself now. So this one here, like the supernova thing, you can see you get listed in the transient name server. And what is the other thing? The A, what does that stand for? Telegraph, something, I don't know, astronomy. They blast it, you know, if you're in the group that first discovers it, and you can see there, yes, you probably recognize one of the names in bold, Anastasia. The ones in bold were the ones that were the first ones that located the supernova, and then the others are the ones before they took the data down. You know, they like to get confirmation, and then it still goes through a process to be validated. These are validated at this point, right? These have been validated. And I think even in that 1 month, you found 18 or something. But what? I was just thinking in June, it was a lot. Well, June, it was a lot in the time before they ran out of data. And sometimes those weren't all first. Some of those were in the second thing. I mean, even the thing that I did, it was like 7 or 8. That's pretty cool, right? Because that's going to be there, you know, that's like, of course, that means everybody's like waiting on Twitter at 11:59 to see if they're going to drop new data at 12. So it gets a little, you know, competitive to get to the data first, to be in the first. I will not admit to being in that part because I didn't find out about that until it was almost over. But now I know, and they are getting ready. They had some problems toward the end. I think some, I don't know if it's logistical or technical problems, but they are going to be coming back online with more data. And so that one's really fun and cool. Let's see. This is a project on SciStarter. I'm not showing many from there. A lot of the ones are on Zooniverse are on there, but like I said, with SciStarter, they're kind of off site. This one is one I think the club should maybe even try to get people to do. It's a very simple, you can see it. They've got kids 5 years old doing this one. Take their parents' cell phone out, takes less than a minute, you're taking a light pollution reading. Now, if you have better equipment, you can do it that way too. But there, you know, there's a map to my house. That's whoops. But they have, like, you see I know, brilliant, but the sky that night, and then they show, instead of having you try to enter what the level is of the sky, they'll say, can you see 3 stars? These 3? Can you see this many? You go through the different levels. So it's really well done. And that's something that you have to do, and you have to enter separately. But it's cool. I think it's important as things change. I mean, we think we have a good idea, but Anna can be at her house and say, it's completely clear. And I can go out and look, and I'm like, no, it's not. And we're not 20 minutes apart. I mean, you know how that works. So that's a really cool one. So we're going to look at some projects. I'm gonna go over one little thing and see if are there any questions so far before we get into looking at what it actually looks like. Yeah. Yeah, I've always liked SETI, even then when people didn't like it because they thought it was, just alien hunting, and that wasn't cool. But yes, and I recently bought an EV-scope too. And the reason I went with that one over any of the others, I mean, basically I have a million hobbies. I do not have time to do everything to the nth degree, but I've always loved astronomy. I mean, I have a LX200 also. Can't drag it out, it's too big, but the reason I went with the EV-scope when I originally was looking at the other one, what's the other one? I can't remember. Stellina, the Valoris, and those which are similar. The reason I chose the EV-scope is because they have a built-in citizen science program with SETI. They partner with SETI for that. And when James Webb was going out, they set up a chain of EV-scopes all around the world, could follow it the entire time. And so they've done some preliminary data for James Webb. Every month they assign new stuff, whether it's, hey, there's a near Earth asteroid we need to be watching. And so what the benefit is, they can send the stuff, they can send the where you need to look and all that stuff, because the EV scope is not for like super professional astronomers, except if they just want to have like astronomy TV while they're sitting out and relaxing. And, you know, it is cool. It is definitely cool, but they help you find it, track it. And every month they give out new tasks or whatever. And it's grown tremendously. I mean, the EV scope's only been out a year and a half, maybe. And the 2 hasn't been out, I don't know, 6 months, maybe. So that's cool. It was a good rationalization to, I mean, let's call it what it is. But if we were looking at a stellina, and I've been looking at it for a couple of years. I'm like, I don't want to jump right into one of these. You know, it looks like it's exactly what I need, and probably a lot of people in the middle range of amateur astronomy. But that was what pushed it over. Absolutely, was the fact that it could give back, and that it was partnered with SETI on so many things. And I've got the link on the page that I'll give you to see some of the stuff. And they just released something with even more, even a tighter, you know, working together, like in May. I'm not familiar enough with it yet, because, you know, I got it and it's been rainy, cloudy for 98% of the nights. And the other 2%, I've either been sick with COVID or some reason. It's hard to get out. We've gotten it out some, but so the citizen science part, I haven't actually gotten all that hooked in and stuff. And of course that brings in, you do worry about personal data and things like that, because they're actually sending it to your app or to the scope. I'm not sure if it's the app or the scope. But yeah, so SETI is definitely a cool one. This is the sheet I'm going to give you. I really didn't want to print it, but it will be online. But I'm just going to go through very quickly and mention what these links are. And yeah, it's on here. It will be available to download on the website, on the listing for the club calendar. My email is on here. If you ever have any questions or want to talk more about a project or anything, don't hesitate. So Zooniverse is on here, SiteStarter is on here. The federal site, federal government has a whole site. It's got, gosh, NASA's under there, NOAA, National Forest Service, FBI. I have not looked to see what those are. NHS. You know, all kinds. There's all kinds of links, and you'll see all this overlapping some, but you do have to kind of go to all of it to make sure you're not missing something you might really like. At least that's what I think. But and then NASA has a citizen science page where they put all their projects. I personally like having, one thing I really like about Zooniverse is not only is it easy and it saves me time, as far as not having to go and put something somewhere else and do different things, is it keeps track of what you're doing. So you get that kind of gamified, you know, hey, you've done this many, you know, or whatever. That's one of the reasons I like it. And EU has a big one, a big list of projects. One of my favorites is in the French Alps. It's a wildlife cam. Love watching it. It's crazy. It's crazy seeing all the animals. It makes me happy to see that there are actually animals walking around that are, you know, living and stuff, and there aren't people. So but there's a trail cam on the Iberian Peninsula. There's one in the Serengeti. There's a penguin watch. There's just tons. So Dr. Cooper, who I talked to in preparation of this, well, this is how it went. I was looking for more resources because when I came out of my little Zooniverse bubble and found her book, and I'm like, oh, she went to state. Cool, we all went to state. You know, go Wolfpack. I'll email her. And in the time between when I emailed her and when we had our meeting, I was very intimidated because she's done a lot in citizen science. And she started the citizen science, it's on here. Yeah, citizen science campus at NCSU with an NSF grant. And it's like a premier one for universities. It's a pretty big deal. It's pretty cool. She's also started a journal, and she does a lot in training, like not on the citizen science end, but on the people who set up projects and stuff. She has a TED Talk, if you haven't seen it, on citizen science, about 18 minutes. So I got the link here for that. And I put her list here that has resources for where she likes to go. Not astronomy, but it's more natural science, bird watching, things like that. And there's a list on here. The museum here has a whole list of citizen science projects. So it's great. It's everywhere. And we talked about the unistellar. And then the other thing that's kind of, to me, is really interesting is the games that you can play that are, citizen science. So I just listed a couple here. If you want to search for more, there are plenty. There's one. Right there. There's one called Fold It, which is, my understanding is proteins. You're folding proteins to try to, let's see, solving puzzles for science is what they call it. That's really misleading because it's really hard. But if you're good with 3D spatial and, stuff, that's cool. And then Philo is one that's a genetic disease research. And then I didn't put it on here, but 𝘰𝘵𝘁𝘓, I've been doing that one for a while. It's a gamified thing that's working for breast cancer research and things. And you basically get a piece of DNA and they put in what the computer came up with is the best order, and you try to beat that and stuff. And then they put you in teams and they do all the gamifying. I think the game Borderlands 3 is citizen science. It's got a citizen science component. They're working with, I think it's the Gut Project. It's a bacterial. I mean, it's weird. I think that's a first-person shooter type game, but they're integrating, and I think that's the first instance it's been integrated into not the 1992 game on the computer, where it's on a platform that's modern. And of course, I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that. So any questions before we look at a couple of Zooniverse fun things? No questions? Anna, any questions over there at all before I move on? Okay. Did you give me a halo? Just a ellipsoid. That's awesome. So I need technical help. And so then I can just bring up. I think I closed everything out. But that's the Zoom. I don't want to close that. Thank you. No, I don't. Just need to minimize that so I can get my browser. Thank you. Maybe. I don't know what that is still there. I think we'll look at the size starter one just really quickly. The one that I was telling you about, that one. I have not done much on that one. Like I said, I'm new to it, but then you'll be able to compare how different it is because different people like different things. I want you to take that away. Yeah. And you can make it full screen as long as I can find Zooniverse when I need to. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. So what's my email? I don't know what email I used, but it doesn't like that. Okay. So this one, you can navigate around and look for projects by different locations, because a lot of them are on site, or if you like, animals, can be done online, age groups, etc. I saved this one here so we can find it. I thought it did. Where is it? I have saved some. Where is it? So it's called world, is it globe? Globe at night. So here you can see how this one is done, and this is going to look very different than when I show you Zooniverse, but all the information's here. So it'll tell you that, so they have, if someone's an affiliate, then you'll get like you can get points towards your badge and stuff. It's an offsite project, which almost all of them are. And it's just talking about why it's important, what you do. That's the website down here. You know, it's recommending it even for, for young kids, because it really is a pretty simple one. And let's see. And that one's going to be, that's on the sheet, but just to show you, see, there's 161 pages of projects. I think they said they have over 3,000 projects here. So you can find something you like, and, you can, so there's just showing you like Knoxville, Tennessee, environment, soil and stream testing, just different things. There's the cloud spotting one. That one is also on Zooniverse, and archaeological digs. So you've got 161 pages of projects here to find. So it's a really good place. Probably won't ever finish that one. So in Zooniverse, which if you haven't done citizen science, it's a good place to start if you are wanting to get into things. So we're gonna look at just a couple of astronomy ones, and I'll show you briefly the other things. What it usually says my recent ones, because I have to put them separately. Okay, so here's the vortex hunters. We'll just use this as an example. And so they've done with this first set of data, but they've started this second set of data, which was 2019. So it's older data. That's not unusual for this one. And then it tells you about the project. And sometimes they have multiple workflows. So you may work through one and they send the data through a second one. You're finding the vortexes, and there's always a status bar, like how many volunteers are working on it, how complete this set of data is, the number of classifications, subjects, and completed subjects. They got external project links over here, information here in the middle where you can see, who's putting on the project, whose project it is. But usually when you go to one, I usually start with the about and all the cool science stuff about it. And then, the why, because, we want to know why we're doing this. And they give a good lesson on it and examples of what, some vortices look like, and what do they want to learn? Not just why they're doing it, but if there's a specific focus. And then shiny stuff about the spacecraft, and there's a lot of good data here. So you're not just going into it, blind and just following instructions. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
The same project.
Yes. And that's one of the great things about Zooniverse, and I'll show you that in just a minute. That's on one of these pages. Yeah, that's one of the great. They will put it, they put the results, the ones I've seen will go up at the top, or there will be a place where you will see it. They will also email you. If you've been on the project, you will get an email saying, hey, the new data's in, or this paper's done. It varies by project, but yeah, you absolutely, because you're required to get the access. So I'll show you the research, and then the team. So you'll see, the people actually working on it, which is nice. They're not, going to be just like blank faces. And then here on Talk, which is one of the really cool things, you can talk. There's a general comment threads, technical difficulties, unusual vortices. People love to talk about weird stuff they find. It's really cool. It's fun to go talk. You talk to other people, but you can also talk to the investigators if you have questions. And so, like you look at tips and tricks, you might have, people have questions when something's not so clear, and then you can look at it, and maybe that helps you on the next thing you do. But it's some of them are pretty active. Let's see. So like if we were going to classify, this is the kind of what it looks like. you start out with, I've done it before, so it doesn't pop the tutorial up, but you can, the tutorial, just a very simple, this tells you what you're going to do. And you just walk through these little things. It tells you we're going to identify features present in the image, vortices, turbulent region, cloud bands, featureless or pixelated. And all the time, this needs some help with this task, and you'll see that on all these pages. That will take you to the talk. There's a lot of support. And then, so then it tells you what it is and what you're looking for, and what each thing looks like, you know, as you're going through. You know, no features of interest, multiple features, but you know, because it's like more, this is just this particular project. And then they want to see any that are cool, because you never know what it might be. They want to miss that. And then always there's over here on to the far right, there's a field guide. So when you're in the middle of stuff, you don't have to go back and just look at the tutorial. Here's the field guide. It's got a lot more detailed stuff, right? And they'll tell you, and some of it's like some of the trail cams that there's like 800,000 species of deer you have to try to figure out, and they sort by horn type and face type and size, and you have to figure out relative size. And sometimes it's like, if you can't figure it out, just put deer. But it can get pretty complicated over here. But yes, it'll show you different examples, so you can check while you're doing it. You can pull up that field guide anytime on any of these projects. A well-designed project will have a good field guide. And one thing you can opt into, I think from the beginning, is being a beta tester. And I love getting to beta test projects, because then I can say, this doesn't make sense, or this makes great sense, or great, I love how you do this, to help, you know, send it out to a bunch of people who are actually going to be doing the classification, so you can tell them what's not working before it gets out there and people just run from it. So when you're ready to do one, so this is, you know, obviously there's one or more vortices, right? This is swirly hurricanes. It's in the turbulent region, which when you read through it, you'll see most of them are. There aren't really the cloud bands. So then for this one, this is really simple. You say done. And that's classification. I think they're going to have a second level on these, on the data sets later. But you can always say done and talk, or need some help, and that will put you in with the people and the even to the scientists that are managing it. So that's one really cool astronomy one. I know we're getting late on time because I was late. So I'm going to try to show you a couple more. So like, that was that one. So cloud spotting, you can see how this is a little different. Same thing. So these are kind of images you're getting. Very different. But then you see, this really just started not that long, at least this data set. So the 2,000 volunteers, they've already made 23,000 classifications, etc. But here, external project links, the blog, the orbiter, JPL, you know, NASA stuff, and you know, all different things. So you can learn all about it. If you want to get really deep into it, you can. If you just want something relaxing to do that you know is helping, you can do that too. So on classify, I will just show you like the field guide here. So they'll say like a single arch. You can see that comes up into a point like that. And they will, so you'll know that's from the angle they're doing it and from the satellite going around, that's what it would look like. But you may not see it in a couple of you have to look at each of the 4 slides, because it may only appear at the right angle when they're doing it. And then there may be some that are close together. They're just telling you what they want you to do there. And let's see. Okay, example walkthrough. So it's a tough example. Many arches. That's the original image. Few arches present. I'm only present, but I'm only confident I see 2 sides and a peak in 1 spot. So I'll mark just one. And then you can zoom in, and then you can zoom back out. You see where it's marked. They just keep going. Looks like they inverted it there. And it just goes through the process. Yeah. So then you can see when you get to the point, get farther along, you can see ones that you couldn't see necessarily in the early or with that view. But that is one thing to show you is here on the actual screen, you've got, of course, you can make it bigger, smaller, whatever you need to do to look at it. And they have a little, this will show a little 4-picture video, which may help you. I mean, you may need to look at several things to be able to do this. And then you can click through each one. Now you can see in this one, like, that's one, that's one, that's one, that's one, that's one, that's one. Of course, as we got one that's got a lot on it. Then you look at the next one, and it's not quite exactly on the top. That's one there, it's very faint. There's one there, it's faint. Might be one beside it, I can't really tell. I usually err on the side of if I can't tell, I don't do it. But yep, see, there it is. It shows up very strongly in the next slide. But one other thing you can do is this little button down here on the right is you can invert. So that makes that surely look like probably is one. So I'm going to mark it because this probably is one. Inversion helps, you know, with a lot with the astronomy ones. It helps to flip it, you know, back. It helps with the animal ones too at night because you see the eyes. And you can save it. They allow you to save projects, favorite them, or you can save funny ones and send them. Some of the projects that are out in the field, you know, they're funny when the people come up to them to change the camera and stuff, you know, and they wave and different things. But you can also make it, you know, make it larger and check really closely. And they also have a light theme. Yeah, so it's pretty well done. Let's see. It's easier for me to go from here. I'll show you the whole list of projects in just a second. The whole list of astronomy. So I'll show you what like the solar jet looks like, and then we'll just look at some general ones. So they say they've added new data. You know, join us in the hunt for solar jets. And again, it's got the about information, and this is kind of interesting. It says why the computer, you know, why the AI on the computers can't do this, you know, and it's interesting to see the different reasons. So this talks about, you know, this talks about why it's difficult for AI system in the thermal emissions, extreme ultra UV range. We see the hot plasms, you know, it just tells you why in the wavelengths with charged particles, but then it's being missed on their AI. And so classification, and there's field guides. You got all sorts of examples of things you might see. And let's see, close that out. So here they're just, you know, this one, the instructions for this one, I've already done the tutorial, is you play the little video and you see, well, obviously that's a jet, right? I mean, that's pretty clear. It's coming out. And so the next stage is you find where it starts, which slide it starts in. Pause it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, that's what my husband thought. But when you dig down, a lot of them do not. Some of them do. And that's what my daughter, who's a computer science PhD major at Carnegie Mellon, and I have been arguing about for months. So Alex, if you're listening, they actually, a lot of them do. But a lot of them are filling in the holes where AI is not good enough, or it's too expensive to train it to do that, because the data is weird, right? So, you know, the AI is hitting that middle of the bell curve. They want to catch those side things because that might be where the interesting stuff is. So you can read, if you read through each project, it will tell you if it's, you know, it will tell you what they're using it for. And some of them are, but not as many as you might think. And I mean, especially transcription and, you know, things like that, and identifying animals and things. But something like this, they explain that it is the wavelength that is not being picked up. It's not, or consistently. So they need eyeballs on it. And yeah, that's been a discussion in our house. Okay, I'll hurry. I won't do the thing on there. I just want, because I want everybody to see the list of so here on the main page, you know, they put some of the front projects. And there's all sciences, again, and history, literature, art, medicine, biology, climate, language, literature, physics. So on space, if you just look directly at space, of course, I look at the physics ones too, and the climate ones too, because those have crossovers and they may not be categorized just as that. But currently there are 22 projects that would be pretty strictly astronomy, but it changes all the time. They're always running out of data and adding new projects. So a lot of these are newer to me, or a lot of the ones I had done before, like the jellyfish, cosmic jellyfish and stuff are gone right now. That radio meteor zoo is the one that's looking at radio telescope information, and so they can calculate the frequency and stuff of the last meteor shower, so they can be predictive, I guess, and to have the data. So the only other thing I want to mention before asking if there are any questions is, so we have our youngest, like I said, do it an hour a week just because we're mean. No, she enjoys it, but we didn't even think to check any of them because science, right? And she's 15 now, but she was doing one, and this is just a caveat if anyone is going to have their kids do it, just check them. But not because it was bad, but because she needed more information. She didn't have a reference point. She was doing a really cool project, which I've done some of now, which is taking intake cards at one of the concentration camps, where they would write down name and families and where they came from, where they were born. But then they would also add, some ethnic slurs. They might be the triangles of the different colors. They might have on there that they died a certain way, and they had like codes for who died which way, kind of thing. Pretty heavy stuff for a 15-year-old to be working on for an hour at a time without context. So when we found that out, we pulled her aside. We talked and we watched some TV, information on it and stuff. So if you're going to turn your kids loose on Zooniverse, for us, it's been 99% totally fine. I mean, she's been doing transcription from tall sailing ships, medical records too, that doesn't bother me, but one that would be just emotionally difficult. I thought, we thought she needed the extra understanding about the importance of it and the gravity of it, and that maybe only do that one 15 minutes and then do some others, because mental health and 15 years old and not, so that's just a caveat across the board. If have homeschool kids or kids that might do it, or any kids, do it. And when I talked to Dr. Cooper, I had asked her, how do you can't gatekeep that and put an aid. You want to leave it open to everyone. I mean, I'm, and you want the parents to know, but we can't protect kids basically from much on the internet if they're on it. But it is just an interesting other angle, ethical angle. So any questions about any of that?
Yes, does anyone have any questions for our speaker on citizen science or any of the projects? All right,
Yeah.
Dana has a question. I'm gonna bring him the mic.
I want to know what spyfish is.
Spyfish. I haven't actually looked at that one. It looks like a
Oh,
new
I'm
one.
sorry. Then I don't mean to throw you under the bus. Sir.
You're not throwing me under the bus. No, this is so this is videos from marine reserves, and just quickly, it is.
I was just going to.
That's cool. So you'd actually, it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like trail cams in the water, that you identify. But there's so much here. I mean, like I said, even the dolphin talking, it's really cool. And the whale talking, listening for it, and, monitoring belugas. I mean, it's not all astronomy, but Zooniverse was founded by an astronomer. So there's a lot there, and that's great. Is that it?
Does anybody else have any questions for our speaker?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, right.
Here, Frank, hold on. Let me bring you the mic. Here you go.
is there any programs on there on spider webs and spiders or insects?
Insects, yes. Let's check spiders. We go to the project page. And when you look at all, this is like all projects here. So there's 104 on here now. And one of the other site, there's 6 pages had like 3,000. There's bees, pardon? Yeah, I was going to search. I was just looking down to see how many projects there were, but it just is paged out at 6. So search by name. Let's just see. Theoretically, they would put spider in the name, right?
Because I like to photograph spiders and
Mhm.
make them big. And when you combine with other seeds, I can make a spider 5, 10, or 50 feet high.
No, thank you. No. I don't see any that have the name spider. That doesn't mean they aren't here. But I have seen other insects. I mean, there's several on bees right here right now, because obviously we have a bee problem and we need to solve the bee problem. So we have food, and stuff. But you saw crickets. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
But there's just a lot. And that's the thing. You'll think you're going on there to do one thing, and then you'll be drawn into a bunch. But you don't have to feel obligated to do that one until it's over. There's plenty to do. Okay.
All right. Any other questions for our speaker? All right. Well, thank you so much for your presentation.